All right, everybody, welcome to Beyond the Arc, the first episode ever where I, Wade, the hustle player, with Coach Leo here. And, bro, I can't wait to do this with you, man.
Hey, man, I'm looking forward to this. It's a lot of fun already.
It's going to be fun, bro. So we're going to talk God, of course. We're going to talk hoops, NBA, anything, man. Everything's on the table, right?
Yeah, nothing's off the table. Let's go.
And this video is not sponsored by Jocko.
Come on, Jocko. What's up?
But I had to crack open one just to... get this party started. Everybody's going to call me the Jocko peddler because I practice and stuff.
Hey, man, every time Wade walks into practice, I see one of those in his hands. I love it.
I'm like, hey, you need some water? I got Jocko. It's okay. It's in my veins, man. It's in my veins.
There you go. There you go. I love it.
So, bro, man, this is interesting. And it's a question I thought about when we were thinking about doing this. And like the first episode, and I was like, why basketball?
Why basketball?
Yeah.
Wait, that's one of those loaded questions. We can go all kind of directions with that one, right?
We take it, Coach. We can go any direction you want.
Why basketball? I would take it back to like as a kid, right? I kind of blame it on my brother Henry. My brother Henry is like my hero, right? Like, and I don't want to get caught like lost in that, but his like dedication to the game of basketball, but also like the highlights, the flair, man, the dunk set, it just drew me into it. So that was my initial. So why basketball? And that kind of led me to really where I am today. But it started with my big brother Henry.
It's always like the younger sibling too. That's the way it was for me. Cause like, dude, I say it all the time, but I'm the runt in my family. I'm barely 6 foot, and my brother got the big jeans. Everybody else got I have a cousin that's 6'6".
Oh, man.
And so here I am, barely 6 foot, and learning to play basketball around like all these trees and getting myself swatted. And it just like put that competitive spirit in me.
You know what? It's interesting you say that, right? Like the competitive spirit. Yeah. And my brothers wouldn't let me score, so I just think about it. I was like, I just wanted to beat them, and with my older brother Henry being so good at basketball, like I had to follow that. And it was like when I was younger, it's like, well, what's wrong with it? Was like, what's wrong? Not in a bad way. It was like, we're expecting you to be here, and it took a while, but. Because of his guidance and his love, I'm gonna be honest with you, man. Like one of the greatest big brothers a man could ask for is one that knows you're not that good in those moments, but will take you under their wing and be like, hey, listen, you can do this. We can do this together. Yeah,
man. I think that's a big part of it for me as well. Like my why basketball, but the other part that I think like. Man, because part of my story is when I went to college, I wanted to be a coach. That's what my degree was in, was kinesiology. Nice. And so and then as I got like further along, I was like, man, I also want a family, and I don't want to like move everywhere every couple of years, all over the state of Texas. It's a game, right? Yeah. You have to play it as a coach. And I was just like, got what I want. And so like for me, this is like being around like the Lions organization, go get it, all of that. It's like, it's helped reignite that passion that the reason I wanted to get in basketball and play was not just a player, because like there's just so many kids, man, that don't have good influences.
100%.
That don't know what a work ethic is, because they don't have someone modeling that for them, It's just, there's so much you can unpack with that,
But listen, I see it in you when you're around. Like not only when you're around me, like the first moment you came in, and I'm like, man, it's so good to have you around. And I'm not just saying that just to say it. I'm saying that genuinely.
Well, thanks, Coach.
Because there's you got it. Yeah. There even when I see some of the guys are like, man, there goes Coach Wade, or when the giftings that you have with filming and creativity, like I love to see it. Like it's brought a spark to everything that we're doing with the Texas Lions, with Go Get It. It's brought a light to it. But like I'm a kid in a candy store. We talk about, like you say, the why. Like, I started basketball. The draw was because of God and using my big brother to kind of be that great influence. At the same time, it was an escape. Right. Yeah. And I didn't know what that really meant early on, the escape, but I can kind of escape from like the challenges that were around me, and that I can go into this gym and kind of like really unplug and be like, I can shoot, I can dribble, the sound, the noise. Like there was just this love and this passion I could just escape in. Yeah. And so that why is that's loaded. I'm gonna be honest with you, because that why is loaded, because the impact of the kids over the years that I've been able to work with, when they come back and and just are full of joy, and then see where they are in their lives, like, man, that's powerful.
Yeah.
It's powerful.
It's funny because you say that because like even your impact on my two oldest sons, like that's something that I see because, my oldest is 13 and he's played like a few different sports. He was pretty good at football. He played a lot of flag football, things like that. But I remember the moment when he was playing and he was just like, man, I think I just want to do basketball.
What? Okay.
And I was like, okay. And what it showed me, Coach, was like the importance of like a good mentor in your life, right? A good influence in your life. Because man, there's so much bad information out there in coaching, and there's just so many bad like influences on coaching. Like, man, it's so hard for me, like, because like I remember I coached one season of my son at the Y, and the Y is like. You just try to herd them, right?
Yeah,
you just like dribble the ball, shoot it. Like you're just hoping they don't score on the wrong basket, right?
Yep.
But it was
5-minute practices.
Yeah. But it was like the kids didn't know fundamentals.
Yeah.
They didn't know like even how to like shoot, even like as a youngster, like push shots. They didn't know how to do it. Like nothing. And so like that whole season, they literally handed me all the worst players.
Oh man. Yeah. Okay.
Because I was the new coach.
Yep.
And we ended up finishing third.
Nice.
And what was so cool about that is getting to see all the kids' growth because their confidence, because they had a positive influence.
Had a coach that cared.
And all the parents were like, "Hey, can you come coach next year?" And I was like, "I don't know," but you know what I'm saying? Yeah. So what's it been like for you, man? Because I know you've been in the coaching for a very long time. So
yeah, and I kind of fell into coaching accidentally. And I would say that as I was still pursuing my career of playing ball, right? Like in dreams of like making it to the NBA and all this kind of stuff, right? And, and getting opportunities to play overseas. And there was a kid in the gym that was a friend of mine was like, "Hey, this kid wants to work with you." And I'm like, I said, man, he can come train with me as I'm working out. Yeah. And at that moment I was thinking, I'm gonna be honest with you, I was thinking selfishly. I was just like, I'm focused on me.
Right.
But in that moment, and we talk about beyond the arc, God and hoops, right? This is that God moment where he's like, yes, you were a solid basketball player.
Yeah.
But I believe there's something more in you, that you're a better teacher of the game. And it's something clicked. Like I feel like I'm a better teacher of the game than even when I was a player of the game. And that may sound crazy to some folks, right? But I really do, because there's a passion to break down the details.
Yep.
And what I didn't know about this kid, by the name of Chris, I don't know if he wants me to say his full name, Chris. But it's funny. Like anything I would show him, he would go home and master it. The next week, like I would work with him twice a week.
Yeah.
The next week he would have that down. So I'm like, man, I got to keep giving this kid more.
He wants it.
and just that right there, giving to him and seeing him succeed, seeing him going from a kid who wasn't known as one of the best players on the team to being known as one of the better players on the team. Yeah. Like that maturation process, to me, like I got a lot of joy in that. And then next thing you know, from that, like I was training pretty much 80% of their basketball team at this high school. And it was like, where are all these kids coming from? Well, his mom just kept sharing with everybody, you guys got to go work with Coach Leo. And I just found this joy in giving back to the game. And I found myself like just doing this. And that was 1999. So that's like how long I've been doing the development and training stuff.
I thought I was old. I had to get you once.
Hey, it's all good. It's all good. Well, hey, these kids keep me young. That's for sure. Yeah, so they keep me young, keep me going.
I love it, man. That's so freaking awesome. And it's crazy too, because like I think about like this is just something. I was even having a conversation with a coworker because she lives in South Africa and her boyfriend plays. And he's trying to get into the European League and the Asian League. Like he plays professionally right down there. And I was just saying like, okay, and this is like a crevice we can get into here. Because I was like, is it just me, or does it feel like the European game is like catching up and surpassing the American game? And she goes, from what we see from Americans that come over to play with us, is they focus only on athleticism, but they don't know how to play the game. Like they don't know how to spacing, they don't know how to pass. Yeah. Those like cutting off screens and things like that. And so like, I'm going to open it, Coach. The first episode, I'm going to open it up.
Well, you open up a can right here.
I'm just saying, like, does the American game too focus on athleticism? I mean, look, it's opened the door for like Joker and Luka and like you know.
Man, how can I answer this?
Because I do like dunks, though. I do like dunks.
You know, and it's going to be a matter of like opinions, right? And trust me, I'm not trying to be politically correct here.
Right.
Like the reality of it is this: when I watch kids at tournaments, kids are focused on so much social media, quick clips of highlights.
Yep.
When you're at a tournament and you got an opportunity to watch and study a player, but you're on your phone looking at highlight clips, liking it every 5 seconds, where is the dedication to learn the game, right?
Yeah.
And so, how can I answer this?
I'm gonna put you on the spot because I was like,
oh man,
because you got a little experience in this.
Yeah,
so
I mean, when you look at even the time I spent overseas, right, man, one of the things that I saw in the younger crew is like, man, they had this deep passion to just get better. Mentally, physically, etc. And there's nothing wrong with the highlights. There's nothing wrong with the dunks. As these kids say, I'm catching a body, like I'm dunking on you.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that or crossing somebody up. But I was at a gym one time, no joke, right? And this is the funny part. A kid crossed another kid over maybe 3 or 4 times in a row, okay? But he missed all 3 shots. And he had kind of like what I called a peanut gallery on the side.
Yeah.
They were, ooh, ah.
Every time. Yeah.
And I had to stop and I say, but you guys know he didn't hit a shot.
Yeah.
Then we look at the guys like the Lukas, the Jokers. They're just like, yo, man, I'm just trying to get buckets. I'm just trying to get, like dominate the game any way I can. And I'm going to beat you with how to read you, how to read your offense, how to attack. Like people look at Luka and it's like, hey, Luka's not that fast. But Luka is crafty. Luka makes moves in a straight line. He's trying to get you to the spot. He's trying to get his shots off. There's so many different things that he does. If you really watch and study him, Luka's special. I'm not saying every player that comes from overseas succeeds, but there's a deep desire to understand fundamentals. How many European players come over and can't shoot?
Yeah.
How many?
Like that's,
oh man, just think about that.
When I hear
right?
European player, I think, they're going to know their fundamentals. They're going to be able to shoot. They'll rebound.
Yeah,
like, that's what I think about.
They pass. They cut back door. They do the little things, and we have players like that. Don't get me wrong. When you look at the Steph Currys of the world and the way he moves without the ball, like it's incredible. Like there's no player moving like him. I think like in the league, right?
Yeah.
And so, but a lot of kids have fallen in love with just his ability to make the three.
Yep.
And they see Steph. Oh man, I want to be a Steph.
Gosh.
Let me come into a gym.
That gets me so bad.
Oh, you not man.
So many kids just standing on the 3-point line, and not moving. Man, it's like
it cracks me up. And I don't want to get on my soapbox or like old guy get off my line.
Yeah.
But just go into a gym and watch how many kids, the moment they step on a court to warm up, they shoot threes. And if they really watch the guys like Steph Curry, Kyrie, Luka, they usually start in within 5 feet.
Yep.
The great shooters always do because they're building out. They're building that confidence. Yep. If there's one thing that I would love to see with American players in youth sports, it has to start in youth sports, is that the little things, being honest with the person in the mirror. Like if I know I can't shoot, why don't I spend the time to work on my shot? There's so much stuff out there. If you're gonna use your time being on social media or you're gonna be on YouTube or whatever it may be, then go look up the footage on how to learn how to shoot. Like what are they doing to build out to that? What are they doing to learn how to dribble?
Yeah.
Like I've worked with kids that it's funny and sad, right? Where they say, "Hey, coach, I want to be a great ball player," and then you give them an instruction, and then a year later, they still can't do it.
Yep.
And it blows my mind. Like when I got a chance to be around great players and learn from them, like I took what they taught me and I went and worked on it. That's what a lot of the European players are doing. They're just grabbing information. They're like taking it and they want to learn. They're hungry. And we have some American players doing that too, but it's not as common as it should be.
Yeah. That's one of the things I noticed even when I was coaching at the Y and then just watching, going to these tournaments and watching a bunch of different kids is just like how you do a rip through, right? How you box out, like how do you pass the ball? You know, how do you see the court? Are you spacing the court right? Like all these little things that, man, and I don't know, maybe it's just a different era. Maybe I'm just being the old, like get off my grass, like kind of old guy, you know, but I'm like, my era of basketball is better. But you know what I mean? Like I see so many things. And I'm just like, maybe I just need to see some of the kids that do it right, you know? Cause like there's a lot of kids that want it. You can see it, but like even like that thing you were showing me before the podcast, right? What was that? Can we look that up? Like, what was that?
Let's look it up about the questions on the coaches and stuff like that.
Yeah. Or
Let's
like,
check it out. Yeah.
No. I mean, like the good player. What makes a good player? Yep. Like he showed it to me somewhere. I think it was on Instagram.
I got it right here.
We'll put this on the screen for you guys that are watching it on YouTube.
Yeah, it's bad players don't take It says bad players don't take much seriously. Average players take games seriously. Good players take practice and games seriously. Great players take academics, nutrition, warm-ups, work, weight room, conditioning, film, practice, and games seriously. And so when we talk about that, like it is an interesting thing sometimes when I see players. I'm like, well, how many players truly study film, like their game, like their mistakes? What do we truly learn from? Do we learn from falling? Do we learn from failing? Or do we learn from success?
Right.
And so like one of the things that I had to realize, especially in the 7th grade, when I got cut, the coach was like, yo, you can't make a left-hand layup. Like, okay. I'm like, that won't happen again. I'm going to go practice a left-hand layup because I knew that was a weakness of mine, right?
Yeah.
And so I was honest about that. I had an honest assessment in myself. And so the great players understand that. Like they want to be coached. When I look at, and I'll name drop here, right? Phil Handy, right? When he works with guys like Kobe or LeBron or Kyrie, that the great ones, the Kawhi Leonard, they want to be coached. Like they don't argue with him in a training session.
Right.
And as a player, he didn't make it to the level that they played as far as like, I mean, elite, right? But Phil was a great basketball player, but he's a phenomenal teacher. And they listen, like Kobe Bryant, like of all people, listening to a guy who played a couple years in the NBA.
Someone like his mentality and game. Like,
come on now. Like, right?
Like
Kobe's like, no, I want to be coached.
Yeah.
Like, so when I see players that are not as good and who have what I would call no stars next to their name, right? And they don't want to be coached. Yeah. Like that cracks me up. Yeah. Like, I'm like, you got to be pretty arrogant to be like, I got no stars in my name, but I got all the answers.
Man, that is what I made my living on back when I played, like old school days, you know, back when because like literally, like I'm a lefty. So, you know, a little squirrely being a lefty, right? But like the thing is I'm 6 foot nothing, could barely get up and dunk it, right? Barely. But it was the desire and the attitude to work harder than the other person. So I would see these guys, I would literally do this, coach. I'd see these guys, like when I would go to, I used to go to this guy named Todd Duncan, his basketball camp every year, right? And I would walk into the gym and there were these like 5-star, 5A school guys. I'm from a smaller 2A school, but we got a good pedigree, right? Mm-hmm. And so I walk in, and what I would do is I would look at those guys and size them up and look at the ones that were walking in thinking they deserved it versus the guys that wanted to earn it. And I would match up against the guys that wanted to earn it because it made me better. Yeah. And then when we would do our scrimmages during that week of camp, they're like, who is this guy and where'd he come from? Because all these other guys that are walking around like they think they deserve it, they're just getting outworked. And it's not because I was better. It was because I just worked harder than them. Maybe that made me better, but you know.
Well, I mean, I'm sure it did, right? Like, and you were talking about like, you know, what 6 foot nothing or something like that, and can barely dunk, but we can all dunk donuts, right? Like, I'm just messing with you on that one, but seriously though, it comes down to this, right? Why are you playing the game?
Yeah.
Like I ask kids that question, like, what is your why? What motivates you to get up in the morning to want to work?
Yeah.
And when you find out your why, right, it can literally change your life. And I'm not just talking about monetarily. Yeah. See, the relationships through basketball have forever changed my life. And I really believe it's an absolute blessing. The relationships that I've been able to build, the people that have impacted my lives. Like, you think about a, guy like Keith Jennings who took me under his wing. And I'm like, hold up, this guy is, the backup point guard of Tim Hardaway. And he's like, he sees something in me. Like as a young 19-year-old kid, like that was
everything.
That was everything.
Like, yeah.
I was like, whatever you say, I'll do. And I remember him, saying this, and I don't know if he'll even remember this, but he said to me, people may not know your name when you get to the gym.
Right.
But by the time you leave, they should either be asking your name or knowing your name.
Yeah.
And so when players step between those lines, I wonder if they come in with that mentality. Do they even care?
Man.
And I like, you listen to like, how simple is that? Like, even if it's effort,
Yep.
right? I can control my effort. Like I tell these kids in practice all the time, they probably like, man, I'm tired of hearing that, coach. What are the 3 things I can control?
Yep.
My effort, my attitude, my decisions.
Yep.
But if I go into a game and I see a loose ball and I don't die for it and I let the other kid die for it, see, I literally made a choice like, yeah, I'm okay with him outworking me.
Right.
Nah, I'm not okay with that, coach. I'm not okay with you getting a rebound on me. I'm not okay if you're averaging 18 points a game
right.
and you score 22.
Right.
It's like if you're having 18 points a game, I'm like, okay, I'm trying to set you down to like 8 points a game. I want to hold you under double figures. Like that's the art of competition within a game.
Dude, and it's plug Texas Tech. Yes. I know it's in the background. Leo is not, he's not a tech. I'm a tech guy. I'm the tech guy.
100%.
I'm the tech guy. But we were talking about like watching that team when they played Kansas, right?
Oh, we were talking about the other day.
And they blew them out. They were playing away, right? Kansas playing away. They didn't have their best scorer. He was hurt with, but like at the same time, you see these guys, how they were like diving for the ball. And like, these aren't like super highly recruited guys. Some of them are pretty high recruited, but like the buy-in, it's like
the buy-in, the trusting the coach, understanding the coach cares and wants them to succeed. But I don't know how many 5-star players Tech has.
Dude, I don't think they have like any, honestly. Maybe 1 or 2.
So
maybe.
we think about that. We look at guys like Shaka Smart at Marquette. Well, why is Shaka having so much success at Marquette and not at Texas? Like it's an honest question. I don't know. Some may know the answer. I don't know, but
coach, maybe no.
Listen, I mean, I personally believe like Shaka is a guy that likes to coach the 3 stars and the 2 stars and into playing like a 5-star, like, right? Yeah. Because they buy
like
in.
Coach Knight, like he just
They just love it. They'll run through a wall for coaches like that. And there's many coaches at the college level that players will run through a wall for. And hear me when I say this, like some coaches are transactional coaches, and then some coaches are transformational coaches. And what I mean by that is, what is your impact on that player? What does that player say about you when it's all said and done, when they're done with their college career? So I look at a lot of that. A lot of times when I'm following players that are in the NBA, what are they saying about their college coach? When a player leaves high school, what are they saying about their high school coach? Right? And the way it's funny because as we were sitting as I'm talking and I'm thinking about that, I go and watch a lot of local high school games, and I've been to games where players will come off the court, the assistant coach, the head coach, nobody says nothing to them in those moments. So that's a transaction to them.
Right.
You either do what I need you to do or you're going to be benched. And I challenge myself in that when I'm coaching, it's like, man, what do I have for this player when I'm subbing him out the game? Like I literally think about these things like, what can I teach them? Because it is bigger than the game of basketball.
Right.
The game of basketball is great, but their life, and some of them may not play in college. Some of them, it may be how is it going to help them in the business world? How is it going to help them with their family, their future marriage, or whatever it may be? How am I transforming their life? And it's unfortunate when coaches don't approach basketball that way, when they approach it as just a transaction. Like some of these 5A, 6A high school where they'll have 4 seniors on the bench and they may play like 10 minutes the whole season.
Well, I'm not going to name names, but I did watch one game where a lot of the players that I saw are supposedly from a bigger school, and I'm like, this is a big school? And what, like, this is what they offered on the court.
Yeah.
Like I was just, I kind of blown away by it, man.
Yeah.
It's just like, and I think that's the thing that like, I know as a player myself, I loved coaches that weren't transactional, that cared about me because I'd want to play harder for them.
100%.
So it's like, man, it's like for us as coaches, it's like, that's the one thing I challenge myself with. And it's like something God has been dealing with me with is when someone says something to me, my reaction sometimes I say, and I'm starting to stop myself from saying this, is I know. Because it's ego, right?
The magic word.
It's the ego, right? And
100%.
so like even with my kids, they'll say, "Hey, Dad, blah blah blah," and I go, "I know." I'm like, you know what? I need to stop because they repeat it, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So like as coaches, we have to watch. Like, are we being transactional or are we transforming? And so like it's always what God was convicting me about. That was as a coach as well. I need to build up with my words, even if they tell me something.
Yes.
That I know. Instead, I'll say, "Hey, thanks for letting me know."
Yeah.
Or that's a good heads up. You know? And so it's
being in those moments, right?
Yeah.
It's like it's challenging.
Yeah.
I think a good thing as we navigate as coaches, as leaders, as men, so on into the next generation is the kids understanding that we care, right?
Yeah.
Because they're more likely to receive when they know you care, like, right? It ultimately, when a coach doesn't care about a kid's like, man, I'm just a number to them.
Yeah.
And I don't always get it right. Like, I don't want to paint this picture like I'm this perfect coach. Like I always get it right. I drop the ball.
We're all human. We all fall short, right?
Man, I dropped the ball so many times. And even when I'm coaching my kids, and I'm just like, man, how do I improve? And I think a big part of it is being aware of that, like this understanding, like, one, you're going to mess up, but when you mess up, do you have the humility to apologize? Now, a lot of coaches don't want to apologize. They don't think they're ever wrong. So they'll be like, I'm the man. I don't make no mistakes. It's your fault. Yeah. And like, even when my kids talk to me about coaches or something like that, I was like, okay, I hear you, but what can you do about it?
Yeah.
And one of the things, my youngest boy, we have these talks and he's like, Dad, I want to be able to play more and I want to be able to do this. I said, okay. I said, well, you can do something about that. I said, because when you play this game, there's not a coach in America that doesn't want to play a kid that can help him win.
Right. And
so the question is, what do you bring to the table to help that team win? Right? What is it? Rebounding? Is it hustle? Is it communication? Like, what is it? Yeah. Right? And so I think learning that, helping kids navigate through that process is important because we know every kid wants to play and every parent wants to see their kid play.
Yeah, exactly.
I get it. I want to see my kids play, right?
Right. Yeah.
But I know I have a role to play in helping all kids understand that and learn that. That there's a lesson in that. Like, I think one of the best lessons, like my mom taught me early on, is like, I'm not going to a coach and talk to a coach because there's certain things that God wants you to go through that's going to allow you to go through to build adversity and the character in you to help you grow as a person. She said, forget basketball. What if you don't play basketball?
Yep.
But if you know how to persevere through adversity, like the Bible is pretty clear on that. When I read, James is one of my favorite books of the Bible. And it says, consider it pure joy when you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith develops perseverance. Perseverance must finish its work so that you are mature and complete.
Right.
So what does that mean? Does it mean just you're going to be complete on the court, or just as you as a person and a young man or young woman of God? And I'm just reminded of that, not only when I'm coaching, but also when I was a player.
That I had a flash in my head. I remember Kobe Bryant talking about process.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember what interview it was, but he's like, kids want instant success.
Yeah.
And so it's like reminding themselves. It's that, like, Gene said it in practice one day, right? He was like, it's 1% better every day.
Yep.
And I think the way Kobe even said it, he was like, I want to get 1% better every day so that on Friday I'm 5% better.
Yeah.
And so it's man,
I love that quote by Kobe, and I may be butchering it, but it's like 1% better every day, and then in 100 days I'm gonna be 100% better.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And so when you think about that, Like if I can really focus on today and be present, like be where my feet are planted, right?
Right.
And water that where my feet are planted in this moment, in this day, what kind of player can I become 100 days from now? Right. Like, and it's not the immediate, I want to get it today. It's like sometimes even when I'm in training, some kids want a million different drills.
Right.
Instead of let me focus on this one and master this one. And when I'm done with this one, and I have this mastered, I can move on to the next one. That one speaks volumes to me, and it has in my playing days as well as now in my coaching days.
Yeah. All right, so I want to get us to this segment.
All right.
That I kind of want us to. We're gonna see if we can make it a thing. So if you guys follow us on social media or YouTube or wherever you follow us, throw in some questions for Coach and I here. But ask it on our Instagram page, and I'm going to pull these up, and we can go into them because there's some good ones in here. I may have threw one in there myself.
Yeah, I'm sure you slid one up in there.
Let me pull this. Okay, so this is a good one. This is a really good one.
All right.
And it's a tough one. So the most challenging and rewarding thing about coaching today's youth.
The most challenging and rewarding thing.
Yes.
Wow, that's a good one. Man, that's
for me. Okay. The thing that's challenging is I want to get on the court and do it with them.
Yeah.
Right. And I can't just do it for them.
Yeah.
I have to get them up to they can do it themselves. Right. Because I do them no good if I try to do it for them. I need them to go through that like trials and you know, like you're saying in James, like the perseverance, right? The building of character. I need them to understand they got to walk through that. But like the thing that gives me the most joy is my desire as a coach and as a father to my son and other kids that, you know, spiritual father for other kids on the court is I want them to be better than I ever was. And when I see them rise above what their expectations of other people have on them, that is the joy for me.
Yeah. I mean, oh man, that's good. Like, I mean, there's so much meat in that. Please, dissect what he just said. Like, really take some time to think about what Wade just said. Wade, how I would answer that is like this. The biggest challenge for me is wanting it more than the kids want it for themselves.
Yeah.
Because I can see a kid with some talent. And I can be like, man, this kid has, I always talk to kids about their superpower. So what is your superpower? Some kid, it may be speed. Some kid, it may be athleticism. Some kid, it may be hustle. What is your superpower?
Yeah.
And then when they don't use their superpower in a game, like for me, sometimes that's frustrating. That's a challenge. And sometimes I want to just jump in their body and just show them what it would look like if they did it. But and it is hard, right?
Yeah.
And I sometimes I say this to kids. Like, I'm not a very good cheerleader. I'm a teacher.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is like, if every single day or every single practice, every single game, I have to be the one to get you up to play, like that's hard for me because it's hard for me to relate to that because this is a game that we all are supposed to love, right? So if I love something, where is my passion and my drive and my excitement and my joy?
Yeah.
Right? I should have a joy that leads me to work harder. Right. So I say this thing to kids. I say, you know, first it starts with desire. Desire leads to discipline. And the discipline you have in your training and your development gives you the results that will actually impact your life. And so the most rewarding thing is when I find that kid, whether it's one, whether it's two, whether it's 10, that is so willing to be coached.
Yes.
Like, I'm telling you right now,
coachable kids, man.
Dude, that is that
dream.
That's
right?
like the dream. Like that gives me like I want to just give them everything. I want to open up the floodgates, all of my resources, all of my contacts. I want to just open up to them because they're like, give me more, give me more, give me more. Teach me. They know how to ask the right questions. Like that, like brings me joy. Like I talk to kids all the time about you. I will know your understanding or basketball IQ, we call it, right, of this game by the questions that you ask.
Yes. I like that.
Is that so? Some kids ask opinionated questions like, who do you think is the GOAT? I'm like, well, that's really an opinion.
Yeah.
Like, right?
Jordan,
the GOAT.
of
course, right? Jordan's the GOAT.
That's
right?
what I like,
So, but they'll ask me that question. Really, that's my opinion, right?
Yeah.
As opposed to like, what made Jordan great? What are the things he did that stood out?
Right.
See, a lot of people see the highlights, the Air Jordans, to come fly with me, all that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
right? But they don't look at Jordan's jab step. They don't look at, when you look at Kobe, their ability to get in the post, reverse pivot, face you up, to do things, jab you right, pull up one dribble, pull up left. Like, they were efficient scores. Like, Jordan didn't like to waste a lot of energy. And you hear it nowadays, like we talked about earlier, about like the highlight generation.
Yes.
You hear these kids like, I'm in my bag. I'm like,
What does that mean?
sometimes when I hear that, I crack up, because I'm like, well, what's in your bag?
Yeah.
Because you can dribble 50 times, you still got to put the ball in the basket.
Yep.
Like, there's some dudes that we know out there that have some crazy handles. Like, I mean, look at the And One mixtape tour back in the day, right?
The Professor, man, that dude's amazing.
Like, handles are ridiculous. And I mean, it's no knock on Professor, but it's like, did he make it to the league like a Kyrie, right?
Yeah.
Like, Kyrie's handles are ridiculous, crazy too. But if you really study Kyrie, people just think Kyrie dribbles all the time. Nah, Kyrie is getting to his spots. He's reading the defender.
Yeah.
So there's so many levels to it. And like, Keith Jennings, my mentor, when I used to play against him, when I first started working with him, I used to be like, why can't I block this dude's shot? This dude be one dribble, pull up quick. And I'm like, man, I'm going to get that one day. And I was like, this dude shoots so fast. And all he would be doing is reading me.
Yeah.
And then he started teaching me and breaking it down. And I'm like, man, I waste a lot of energy dribbling around for 5, 10 seconds, 30 seconds, dribbling the air out the ball. And I used to crack up when Charles Barkley would say about James Harden, dribble, right? And it used to crack me up, because I'm thinking about it. I was like, man, James Harden has been in the league. Don't get me wrong, the dude's done well.
Right.
But just coming back from an opinion standpoint, do I look at him like a Jordan or a Kobe? Do I look at him that's like, man, I can go get 50 points, but I'm gonna take 20 shots. I'm gonna go get 30 points, and I'm gonna take 15 shots. Like, there's a major difference in that.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a little bit about, I know we kind of went off on a tangent on that, but there you go.
All right, so here's another good one, Coach.
All right.
How can players develop a competitive mindset off the court?
Man, that's a good one. How did it develop a competitive mindset off the court? I think one of the things is just understanding what healthy competition is.
Yeah.
Right. Like, my mom was a competitor, but my mom is she's the nicest, most loving person in the world. But you could be bowling with my mom, and it's just really finding joy in competing. Like my wife, man, my wife is competitive. Don't play her in no Scrabble and stuff like that. She will light you up in that. But it's the little things like that is having a healthy joy in competition, and being okay with that, and being able to like the fight, right? Like, it's when somebody comes at you in a game, whose will is going to give in?
Yes.
And so in life, when things are tough, what do you go to? Do you just quit and wilt and give up, or do you say, can I tap in? Me personally, man, I have to tap into God. Like, once again, I'm a plug Beyond the Arc, God in Hoops. Like, it's not just hoops, it's God in Hoops.
Yep.
I would not be where I am today if it wasn't for God changing my life.
Right.
Like, I'm unapologetic about that. So when we talk about, like, my source of when I go through struggles is to turn to God. And so when I'm facing those trials and that kind of stuff, it helps me develop that fight, because I have a source to tap into, as opposed to like me getting to the point where I'm so drained that I have nothing to offer, right?
Yep.
I got to have something to offer, especially coaching kids.
Yeah, I love that, Coach. I echo that, because, like, for me as well, it's God, because, I think about this a lot. The mindset of a Christian is that of a winner, because we're created to be more than conquerors, because God won the battle, right?
Yes, sir.
So we are also winners when we partake in Christ, because he won the battle for us, and we're his sons, and he trains us how to have that mindset of never give up.
Yes.
You have I seriously think the reason why some people like LeBron or Kobe or people we've known in any sport, with Michael Phelps and swimming, whatever it is, I think the thing that separates all of them, their will.
Yeah.
It's like it's like a superpower.
Yes.
And when you tap in to God and the Holy Spirit, it's an unbreakable, unquenchable. Like the Spirit can never stop flowing through you, right? No. It just overflows out of you, and like it's a will that can never be broken. Like you can be like Shadrach and stand in the fire, and you know you're not going to get burned. Or if you get burned, so what? I'm with God in glory, right? Yeah. And so it's like, it's that mindset. So I would say if you want to develop a competitive mindset, tap in to the inner being of God in you, right? Jesus Christ in your heart.
Love it.
And that Holy Spirit, because that's like that strength will elevate you. Yes. And it's crazy, coach. Like I was thinking about this. There's so many athletes today that aren't afraid to say, I want to thank my Lord Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Like they're stepping up.
And it's like people are starting to realize maybe their character is because of Jesus in them. Maybe their will being unbreakable is because David was a warrior. It says in the Bible that the Lord is a warrior. The warrior is his name. And it's like, so to answer that question, that's where I get it from. Is I will never break because Jesus never broke and he lives in me.
You know, it's while you were talking, right? I had to pull up my phone real quick. I was like, man, I gotta, like this scripture came to mind. Jeremiah 17, starts in verse 7. It says, but blessed are those who trust in the Lord and have the Lord their hope and confidence. Let me read that again. It says, blessed are those who trust in the Lord and have made the Lord their hope and confidence. So I misread that earlier, right? Yeah. And it says, they are like trees planted along a riverbank with roots that reach deep into the water. It says, such trees are not bothered by the heat or worried by long months of drought. It says their leaves stay green and they never stop producing fruit.
I love it.
So that scripture I was just reminded of that, and it brought me up, and so we're in this time in this age or whatever, where sometimes there's believers out there that are athletes, but they don't want to speak up about their faith, right? And sometimes they're just attacked. Yeah. And at the end of the day, you got to know, like, my job is not to please every single man and woman out there. Right. My job is to please my Heavenly Father. And it's like, seek him, right? And then what happens is those battles and that I'm going through, like he gives me that strength to go through it. And so what I would encourage kids is, man, really tap into that source. That's a powerful source.
That's it, man. That is it. I love it. That was a great scripture. This next question is a good one too.
All right.
It leads into everything right here.
Come on,
bring it. I'm going to say the best for last. Okay. So this is the next to last one here. And he said, and this question says, how do you glorify God on the court?
And, you know, it's when you're on the court, don't cheat what he's given you. Yeah. And here's, I'm going to unpack that a little bit, right? Yeah. Okay. So, kids hear me say this, like, and you're going to hear me say that a lot. A lot of times I'll say things to players a lot. These different things will come in my head. It's like, if you step onto the court, right, and you step between those lines, you're going to be creating memories or regrets. Yeah. So if I leave that game saying, oh, I wish I would have did this, or I wish I would have did that, or da-da-da-da-da, right? Like, we've all done that at some point in time. Like, that's a regret. So therefore, I'm not glorifying God because I didn't give my all when he gave me the ability and the opportunity to play. Yeah. Like, you know, we hear the stories about Jordan, right? Like, you know, we believe Jordan's the GOAT, right? There's no question about that. Jordan's the GOAT.
Easily.
Right?
Easily.
So Jordan said he was playing on that court for the person who may only see him like one time. Yeah. That means they may have saved up all of their money, right, to see him play that one time, and they may never get another opportunity. Yeah. That's what he was playing for. So he didn't want to cheat them, right?
Right.
And so in that process, no matter what, I don't know where Jordan is in his faith. I don't know any of that stuff, right? But at the end of the day, God gives us giftings, right? And are we giving our all with those giftings? And so some players, they don't leave it out there on the court. right? And that's not glorifying God. I don't care. You can say, hey, I'm a Christian. You're not glorifying God by going out there playing halfway, giving half effort. Like I don't know how, like, because if God is a God of excellence, then let's do it with excellence, right?
Right.
When we think about that, I mean,
Right.
behind the scenes, we look at the stories of the Davids, the Josephs, the Daniels. Like Daniel did things with excellence. Can you imagine the faith you have to have where he's like, throw me in the lion's den?
I'll be good.
Like right?
Yeah.
I'm good. I'm not worrying about you. Like I'm good. Or David when he was fighting Goliath. Like people don't understand that dude was fighting lions and bears. Like his training had prepared him. Goliath was like nothing.
Yeah.
We make it seem like Goliath was this giant, but in reality, with God, Goliath was like a little small minion, so to speak, right?
Right.
So, I say that with kids, man. When you step on that court, or young men, young women, when you step on that court, like give it your all, and through that process, you're glorifying God. And then, also like we say, effort, attitude, decisions, right? I don't need to be on that court being, for lack of a better word, a jerk.
Yeah.
Like feeling like I got to talk trash to a coach, or
Right.
feeling like I got to talk trash to a player. Like
Right.
I don't get me wrong, I used to have some fun talking trash, but it wasn't to degrade someone, right? I would have some playful banter.
All right, keep going.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
What else?
So I would end up, players would foul me. I go to the free throw line. I said, man, I appreciate those free points because
Easy
this is
money.
automatic,
Yeah.
right? And stuff like that. I was
Yeah.
like, hey, did you bring your family to this game? You know what I mean? Like, it might be a bad night for you. Like, we're having like some fun banter.
Yeah.
But when it goes to the point where like, I got to push you, or I got to, fight with you, or I got to do, like, it's just like, are we boxers or are we hoopers, right?
Right.
And so it's thinking about that stuff like that. Like how am I, even as a coach, like how am I glorifying God?
Yeah.
There's times I mess up, like whether I'm getting on the ref too much, and youth sports, man, sometimes refs is
You don't get on refs, do you?
No,
Not at
man,
all.
never that, coach.
I see him
Never
with
that.
ref.
Man. And there's times I look back and I'm like, man, am I glorifying God in this?
Yeah.
And there's a
Little
balance,
check.
right? Like
Yeah.
there's a check in my spirit
Yeah.
for sure. Like,
Yeah.
I could have done better.
Yeah.
Right. And so I'm challenged by that, and I'm also challenging my players in that.
Yeah. That is so good, man.
Yeah.
For me, it's always been, I think, there's always like players and people that you want to emulate, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think the struggle, especially for hoopers, is you want to be the cool guy and be like so-and-so,
Yeah.
right? For me, what I've always looked at it was like, that's fine if you want to be like your mentors, but I also want to be me.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm different, and I'm different for a reason. Like God created Coach Leo, the way you are for a reason. He created me for a reason.
Yeah.
I don't want to be you because I'm supposed to be me.
Yes.
And so the way that I always approach it is when I walked on the court, I was me.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how to explain it other than like I was being different than what people expected.
Yeah.
And so whether it's like the way I trash talked, the way I hustled,
Yeah.
the way I answered coach, even if he said something to me that like just pissed me off, I'd just say, yes, coach.
Yeah.
But I would internalize it, right? Because I was just wanting to be different. Because that's like, I think that's part of like the thing that sometimes, especially when you get into like the celebrity culture of Christian athletes, right? Is you're meant to be set apart. And so I want to be different from somebody else on the court. So like I know you've said it before, but like I would even do it sometimes like, I remember when I was in like, I think it was 8th or 9th grade and I was playing in the AAU circuit and 6'0", and I'm out rebounding a 6'6" guy. And I continually do it the whole game. And the coach is yelling, why are you letting that like little walnut out rebound you? And so like,
did he really call you a walnut?
He did. He called me a walnut. I was okay with it. It wasn't anything bad. So I was like, okay. But like, what was the way I was different in my trash talk as I went over to his ear and I said, you gonna let me keep doing that to you? But see, it's different, right?
it's different.
You don't need to come in. You don't need to degrade them.
Yeah.
You don't need to like curse at them or whatever. So I was me, but I was different because I was being who Christ created me to be. So it's like,
no, I love it. When as you were talking, it had me think about this saying, like, BYOG, right? Phil Handy says BYOG, be your own GOAT. And there's times I've said that and people was like, oh man, that's not very Christian. Like, I'm like, well, what do you mean?
Yeah.
And it was like, no, it's be who you were called to be. I'm not comparing myself to anyone else.
Right.
I am literally like, what is the best that I can possibly be? So when I hear that term, be your own greatest of all time, that means like whoever God has called you to be in whatever you do.
Yes.
Be great at it. So if you can lock in on that and you really think about that and really break that down, because I love to unpack stuff like that when I hear these acronyms. There's so many different ones out there, right? But you hear that term, GOAT. Who's the GOAT? Well, if you spend so much time worrying about being someone else, you really miss out on being who God has called you to be.
Right.
So that one really hits me differently. And some people may take be your own GOAT differently, but I take that. That's how I interpret it.
We see it through the lens of Christianity. That's the way we see it.
There you go.
Yeah. All right, you ready for this? This is the last. This is the best one.
Come on, bring it.
It may have been influenced by somebody sitting at this table, and it said, "Coach Leo, you ever going to dunk again?"
Oh wow, man.
I had to throw it out there, bro.
Listen, a couple months ago, it's funny story. A couple months ago, my sons was like, "Dad, you can't even grab the rim anymore." And I'm like, "Oh man, here's a challenge." I'm like, "Son, I can still grab the rim." So, and I went up and grabbed it. They were like, "Whoa!" They shocked them. And I said, "You guys keep messing around. I'm gonna get back in shape enough where I can dunk." The answer is, Coach Leo gonna dunk again. Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes, we're gonna get that on camera.
We're gonna get it on camera.
We're gonna get that on camera.
Right,
so
remember that date, guys.
Now, hear me in this. I don't know.
It might be a year from now.
Might be 6 months to a year. It might be a tip dunk. But the answer is yes. I'm gonna do my best to dunk again.
I love it. That's great. So I think we've pretty much gone over everything we want to talk about, but I want to ask you any closing thoughts, any encouragement you would want to encourage anybody watching or listening to this with this first episode. What could be a takeaway from Coach?
Man, the takeaway.
You always got the good takeaways. I want to hear it. The coach got the motivational speeches.
Come on, let's bring it. What do I have? What do I have? Lord, what do you have for me to share? Right? As you ask that question, one of the things that I really want to just offer those that are not only watching, players, coaches, parents, whatever it may be, what is the purpose for you in this beautiful game we play, right? But also life. And I know that I don't want it to sound cliche. Hear me when I say this, Coach, right? But ultimately, when I coach, I know a part of my purpose is to impact the lives of others. Like, and what does impacting someone's life mean? What am I trying to do on a day-to-day basis to impact their life? And so what am I doing as a player? So if you had 5 players on the court at one time and they were all trying to impact each other and they were all trying to help each other, man, what kind of unity would you have?
The Spurs. When they had their dynasty.
Yeah, I hope you wasn't saying that. I hope you wasn't saying the current Spurs, but
not the current.
The Tim Duncan, even when they had the Avery Johnson, and when Parker came in, that fast Frenchman, man, that dude was so lightning quick in his floater. Yeah, man, Ginobili was legit. Yeah, that dude had high energy all the time. The Robert Ory's, Big Shot Bob. Yep. I mean, we go down the list of these greats that have played for the Spurs. I'm not a Spurs fan, but it's looking at that player next to me. Yeah. When I leave a season, what has my impact been on my teammates' life? Yeah. Parents, what has your impact been on the organization, and how did you leave your mark? Is it a mark of complaining, or is it a mark of life giving? Coaches, what marks are you leaving on your players and other coaches around you? Do you create an environment of unity, or do you create an environment of discourse? So there's all these different things that I do think about, as being in a position of leadership, right? Like, I'm challenged by that. Like, okay, is it just about me, or is it about all these others that God has entrusted me with in some capacity, right? Like, I don't do everything. God has placed some great people around me, and really with me to walk this out. there's no way I would ever want to do it alone. And when I think about Go Get It and the relationship I have with Rich McIver and the impact this guy has had on my life, right? Like, man, he's my brother, and walking this out, like stuff like that. Like, we have so many cool stories with this game,
man.
So kids, oh man, you will never get this moment again. I'm looking at this camera. Hear me when I say this. You will never get this moment again. So leave your mark on this moment.
That's so good. I have nothing to follow up on that. That was so good. I was like, that's good, Coach.
Oh, man. Appreciate it, man.
Hey, well, any of you guys that are listening to us or watching us, please go follow us on our social media. I think we have an Instagram, a Twitter, a YouTube. Yep. It's just Beyond the Arc, God and Hoops. You can find us. Hey, and Jocko, if you want to sponsor, that'd be okay.
Come on, Jocko.
I
What's
need some
up,
free
man?
Jockos, bro. Come on, man. Hey, bro, I appreciate it, Coach.
Hey, man.
It was a great one.
It was a great one. A lot of fun, man.
Appreciate you guys. We'll hit you up again next time.